Welcome to our training today for project management. My name is Greta Robinson, and we will be going through some slides today to train you all about certain aspects of project management. Training topics that we'll be covering are project closeout, then international factors and cross-cultural considerations in project management. Then we'll talk about agile project management, and finally, we'll discuss relevant Project Management Institute, or PMI, certification programs. To start off, project closure. I started this off with a quote, which I thought was great for this topic. It's those who cannot remember the past are condemned to relive it. We'll start off with some challenges for project closeout or closure. The first one being wrap up, making sure the project is accepted and approved by the customer. It could be a challenge. Another challenge could be the project audit, post-project reviews to include analysis and post-project reviews, and also evaluation of performance and management in the project evaluation for the project manager and the team members, as well as the major players in the project. Project closeout. Some solutions to those issues might be creating checklists to ensure tasks are not overlooked. You can hold project audit with team members and stakeholders. And you can also include vendors and customers in the evaluation so that going forward, you can do it better the next time, hopefully. So a project closeout scenario that I came up with, a project closure scenario I recently had the pleasure of working on was with a roadshow for a company called ZipFizz. And I say recently, and I would say in the last 5 years. It's a healthy energy drink, which we are promoting at Costco. Road shows generally go for 1 to 2 weeks, and it's a full-blown party for the entire show. It's high energy, non-stop. For the closeout of the show, we did tallies of the remaining product demo supplies and leftover supplies still at the Costco coolers. And then the demo tables, bottles, and supplies were dropped off to the regular salespeople to keep until the next show. Numbers were tallied and submitted along with pictures to the main office in Seattle. We had several one-on-one meetings to include meetings with each employee to record their experiences with the show and to invite eligible employees back for the next show. The final stage was to pay Costco for our space and show time, and appropriate paperwork was completed at that point. I personally spoke with the managers at Costco to make sure that they were happy with our sales and the presentation to include employee behavior and demeanor. International factors and cross-cultural considerations in project management. There are several factors to consider when managing an international project. Political, cultural and social factors, legal factors, technical factors, environmental and economical factors, physical factors, or geographical, managerial, organizational factors as well. And I am sure there are many, many more, but for now we'll touch on these main topics here. So political and cultural factors, political instability, corruption, policy, war, military coups. There are several different things you've got to really look into and do your research on before engaging in a project on overseas. You definitely need to be aware of the political climate at that point. Pardon that. Cultural factors, religion, customs, ethnicity, cultural differences. Those all exist, and if you're not aware of what the customs are or what the religion is within the country that you're going to, you are going to most likely run into big time problems. You're going to speak to somebody incorrectly. You're going to not know when to let your employees off for special religion, like a religious holiday or something. Like Muslims, they don't eat pork. If you serve pork sandwiches at your luncheon, that would be a very big faux pas there. So you just need to make sure that you do your research and know what the culture is in the country that you're going to. Legal and technical. So legal would include laws, policies, taxation, currency, and environmental issues. Um, Laws are huge. We have tons of laws here in the US. So just imagine what it's going to be like in another country. You need to understand what their laws are. You can lose a lot of money on a project. You can be set back if you're not following the laws and your project gets set back, it gets closed, it gets shut down, whatever it might be until you're following that particular law appropriately. Taxation. You want to make sure taxation is going to cover, imports, exports. Say you need a certain kind of coffee for your shop or a certain kind of wood, and say this country doesn't have it. Are you going to get taxed majorly on your importing of that product? There's so many factors to look into with taxation. Currency. What's their currency like? Um, a lot of times, our U.S. dollar is actually very strong. Their currency is not usually. However, you need to be aware of what these situations are so that you can plan appropriately as far as expenditures within that country. Technical availability, resources, skills, and procurement. Technical availability, do you even have the internet that you're going to need, the infrastructure, the resources, the wiring, the access to pretty much everything that you need to build your office or your business or whatever it is that you are doing overseas, and skills. Are you going to have the right people available with the proper skills? We could talk about this one for a while, but I think you get the idea with that one. Economic and environmental. Economic instability, recession, inflation, competition. Decreased consumption. So, economic instability in a country is a huge issue to be watching out for. I can say just from my travels to Turkey, they had major inflation on products such as milk and bread and regular items that they would be needing to use on a regular basis. That causes stressors on the household. So depending on what business you're doing in that country, you need to make sure that the people are going to be able to afford it, and that if you're having to buy stuff for your business, that it's not experiencing that inflation as well. Competition. Are there other businesses around that are going to beat your business? Are you going to need to do a good marketing? Are you going to have the politicians on your side? Excuse me. Environmental pollution, air, water, noise, natural resources, wind, heat, rain. We could go on with this one. Are there a lot of earthquakes in this area? Do you need to be ready for, do you need to have air purifiers? Say you're in China. The air quality is horrible in a lot of those areas. You are going to have to make sure that your staff and your office has a way to purify that air. Wear masks, all those different things. Water, is it potable? Are you going to need it to be potable? All of these considerations. Noise, do you need to put up noise barriers? Are you going to have to move into a different area because of the noise? Natural resources, wind, heat, rain, those all fall into those categories. And you definitely need to do your research and make sure that you're prepared for those kinds of things. Physical and managerial and organizational. So physical, civil matters, war, natural disaster, terrorism. Okay, so in the Middle East, civil matters. How are the police? War, are they about to have a war? Are they, they're letting people in from Syria? Are they having a war with other neighboring countries or even our country, for God's sake? Natural disaster. Like I mentioned before, are there a lot of earthquakes? Do you need to make sure that you're prepared for earthquakes? Do you have a system in place so that your employees know how to handle these kinds of disasters? Terrorism's another one, especially in those countries. You might experience that. Just having a plan, being prepared. Risk management's huge with these things. So being prepared, having your team prepared as well, having a plan for what you do in these situations is going to be huge. And also being aware of what's around you. Communication, authority, accountability, and participation. So as a manager, communication over and over again, we keep hearing, is one of the most important aspects. If you can communicate, you're going to do much better than if you can't communicate, just plan on a failed project, basically. Communication is going to be even more difficult in another country because you're going to have language barriers, especially if your team is composed of people from that country. Communicating with them in their customs, in their language, in their what they know, in their culture. Authority. How are you going to build your authority? Who's going to have the authority? Planning ahead by making sure that everybody understands their part in the team and who they answer to, depending on the customs of that country as well. Accountability. Are they going to be motivated? Are they going to be accountable for their jobs? How are you going to do that? Making sure that you have those kinds of plans in place is going to be extremely important, and they all lead to the participation. If we all know where we stand and we're all accountable, the participation is most likely going to be there at a very high level. International factors and cross-cultural considerations in project management scenario. Now, I've never worked overseas, so I can't really give you an actual overseas experience of working on a team. However, I thought about a scenario here in the U.S. We work with a lot of cultural aspects here. I can tell you my office has people from Iran, from Mexico, from all over the place. So, and the customers, the people that we help are from all over the world. So it's extremely important that we do pay attention to these cultural aspects and different things. So, because I currently work for the Human Services Department in New Mexico, we're always working with culturally different scenarios. For some reason, Albuquerque has a very diverse population with people applying for assistance after arriving to the U.S. for the first time. Working with immigrants requires that I follow many protocols and laws, which are here to protect their civil rights. It's very important that I follow these. An example would be I cannot ask them for their social security number. I cannot ask them if they're legally here. I can't. It's not in my job rights, and I know that. So, of course, I'm not going to overstep that. So knowing these kinds of things in our country and abroad is going to be so important. I also need to understand different cultures to an extent in order to help them effectively. An example would be a family has arrived from Mexico. They're all needing medical assistance. Unfortunately, our laws do not cover the adults, but they do cover the children. And knowing these laws, I'm able to help them appropriately. Other immigrants I have to work with are from the Middle East, and they also require a different demeanor when discussing assistance. A lot of them, their culture doesn't necessarily want to take assistance. They also have a hierarchy in their families. It's very different from here. So being open and having a desire to learn other cultural mannerisms is a helpful aspect to obtain and learn and practice. Agile project management. Instead of attempting to plan the entire project up front, agile project management relies on incremental, iterative development cycles to complete projects. That's my quote, straight out of the book. It's actually not a quote, it's just from the book, and I thought that was a great explanation of agile project management. Some challenges with agile project management would be misunderstandings of the concept. People who think that it's just, well, what I read was an anarchy of project management. Like everything goes, it's whatever they want. It's not actually that way, but that's a misunderstanding. Overcoming that understanding is going to be something that will have to happen. Also, a challenge could be that it could be unstable. It could feel unstable anyway. Overlapping development. So if there are there are many projects going on. So at one time, so overlapping developments could occur within that project, because it isn't open and free. It's a very creative sort of management style for project management. So some solutions to those would be up your communication. Let people understand what it truly is, what your goal is, that we're trying to make sure that the customer is getting what they're asking for. Sometimes we don't always know exactly what we're asking for or how we're going to get to it. We know that we have a concept, and this is what allows us to build that concept with that client. Also, a solution would be comprehensive documentation. That is what we don't necessarily want to do. I put that on there because comprehensive documentation is what a regular project management project might have to go along with it. An example I put was, I personally, if I would like some software developed, I'm hiring this team to develop this software for me because I don't know how to do it. And because I don't know how to do it, I probably don't understand the documentation either. So it's going to be much better if they actually build what I'm asking for. And on the back end, they're doing their own documentation, of course, but they're not having to present that entirely to me. They're presenting a product that actually works instead, which I think is amazing. Customer collaboration, that goes right back with that comprehensive documentation example I just gave. And also responding to change, the ability to be agile, to be flexible, and respond to change in an effective way instead of the way that the ostriches do and stick their heads in the sand. So the ability to respond to change and quickly and effectively. So a scenario would be, I'm going to have to draw this from my photography experiences because that is a creative sort of project that I did work on. So I was a photographer for some time, and before I decided to get a quote-unquote real job with the state, I did get asked at some point to be a project manager. They didn't call it that, but they said, would you please take on Santa Fe Fashion Week? And I was placed in charge of the entire show, from pre-show to post-show, with photographic events all the way through. They gave me a team of photographers. I didn't get to choose them, but they chose amazing ones, who all had much more experience than I did, which was incredibly nerve-wracking, since it's a very competitive business and field. And as a newer photographer, it was kind of like I was afraid they were going to be mad that I got that position and was actually telling them what to do. But I was able to be agile with these people. They were very, very helpful. I was able to use, pardon me. I was able to use their talents. I was able to put them in charge of different things that they knew that they would be able to run. I just did the oversight on everything. So you can read through more of this if you'd like later. It was just basically I had to meet with the founders, the art galleries, the venue, the judges, the models, and then of course all the photographers on a regular basis. I created schedules and layouts and called on the experience of those photographers. As the show progressed, we were able to produce placements and lighting and backdrops as I cannot talk, as a team. I'll just say that. We assigned certain photographers to specific events, and we made sure that the models were comfortable and also had a say in the layout. Post-show, we met one last time and agreed on who had which rights for use and placement of the photos. It was basically, just a perfect example of agile project management because it really did have to flow. We had to be very flexible. So finally, the last couple slides are just going to be going over relevant Project Management Institute certification programs. I listed the ones that were on the project management site: Certified Associate in the Project Management, PMI Professional in Business Analysis, PMI Agile Certified Practitioner, Portfolio Management Professional, Program Management Professional, and Program Risk Management Professional. There's quite a few. So I chose a couple of them just to kind of break them down a little bit more. So I chose the Project Management Institute certification of PMP. The PMP, or Project Management Professional certification, is referred to as the gold standard of project management. This is like I guess if I wanted to be a project manager later in life, a real one with a certification, this is what I would get first. And it basically covers all the competencies and excellence in leading teams and performing the role of a project manager. PMP includes predictive, agile, and hybrid approaches. To earn this certification, one must meet the following requirements. So, 4-year degree, 36 months of leading projects, 35 hours of project management education training, or CAMP certification. There were more ways you could go about that, but I thought this would be a good one to highlight. Then finally, PMI Project Management Ready. So I thought this is a good one because I've got kids in high school now, so this might be something they would be interested in. I thought it was very nice that they have this option. The PMI Project Management Ready certification is geared towards introducing high school students and post-secondary students to the world of project management. If I had learned this at a younger age, I might be one by now. So I think that it would be really good to learn this from the very beginning. To earn the PMI Project Management Ready certification, the following requirements need to be met. A student who wants to learn project management is number one, and also a student who wants to network with project management professionals, which would also probably help them get hired down the road. And now we come to the end of the show with the references. And I thank you very much for listening. And I hope that this has helped you to understand some of the aspects of project management a bit better. Thank you.